Toronto, the mecca of hockey. This is where I live. But I've also lived in a place that's 500 times the size in terms of population. A land with so much potential for hockey that some of the biggest hockey powers, including the National Hockey League, are actively chasing.
With a population of 1.35 billion as of October 2016 and a GDP projected to hit 22.2 trillion as of 2030, China would seem like the perfect target for the NHL's next expansion. It's a gold mine, and I think the NHL will be there sooner than you think. Here are some reasons why I believe ice hockey and the National Hockey League will one day be in China. 1. The growing middle class. Some estimates peg the current middle class population at about 300 million people. And that number? Well, that's growing by roughly 40 million people per year, according to Export Development Canada. By 2022, it is estimated that the middle class in China will be consuming $3.4 trillion worth of goods and services. So what does that mean? Well, more people and more money to buy tickets. 2. Increased urbanization. We're seeing a trend of increased urbanization in China. What does that mean? Well, we see more and more cities that scream big ticket market. The urban population in China was 58% in 2016, and that number is expected to grow. Some cities that most people have never even heard of have populations that far exceed the size of any sports market in North America. There are in fact 15 cities in China that have populations of greater than 10 million people. So it's feasible to have a number of teams in different markets, not just the Tier 1 cities like Beijing or Shanghai. 3. Technological advancements. Just think about what state the aviation sector will be in 10 years from now. An aviation startup in Colorado is designing an aircraft that can travel from New York City to London in just 3.4 hours. For $12,000, of course. It can also fly from San Francisco to Tokyo in just under 5 hours, as opposed to 11. It is now feasible that an NHL team can fly to and from China without really breaking the bank or wasting too many days of travel. Boom plans to start flying this prototype in late 2017. The NHL's younger brother made it to China first. HC Kunlun Red Star, based out of Beijing, made their inaugural season in 2016-2017. Playing out of the 18,000-seat MasterCard Center in Beijing, the team has 4 Chinese players, as well as some Canadian talent. There's also talks that the league may be expanding to Seoul within the next few years. I'd be much more inclined to throw on a Red Stars game than some Hurricanes Florida Panthers game. Sorry guys. You would think if the NHL is to participate in the 2022 Winter Games in Beijing, it would first need to reach an agreement with the IOC regarding sending NHL players to the Winter Olympics in South Korea in 2018. The perfect platform to grow hockey in China. The NHL could even hold games prior and post-Olympics all across the country to showcase some of the talent they have and the product that they have to offer. And I'm sure it hasn't escaped the NHL's attention that the average ticket price for an NBA preseason game in China? $500. We should be getting word of the NHL's decision to send NHL players to the Olympics in 2018 very shortly, so stay tuned. Will hockey culture grow and develop in China? Well, that remains to be seen. Let's be serious here. Hockey is about as popular in China as badminton is in North America. I've lived in Hong Kong. The only rink you could find was 30 floors up in a mall skyscraper. Plus, have you ever tried lugging your hockey equipment in 40 degrees Celsius heat? No, thank you. Grassroots hockey in China is a challenge, but there are signs that things are progressing. In 2014, China State Council made a push to make sports front and center in China. They put out a set of guidelines that had the ambitious objective of having the sports industry reach 5 trillion yuan by 2025. State Council also hopes to have 500 million people participating in sports. Sports facilities are also expected to have a 100% coverage in new neighborhoods. Hopefully, this can include ice hockey rinks. It was also reported that in 2014, just over 80 games were broadcast in China. In an article by Michael Trakos, it was reported that the average viewership for games broadcast in China was between 1.3 and 1.5 million people during the season of 2015-2016, which is 3 times greater than the year prior. Unfortunately, this is still only 0.1% of the entire population of China. Individual NHL teams and even the Canadian government have made a push to grow hockey in China. A perfect example of this is Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, one of the biggest hockey powers on the planet. They are running hockey camps in the country and have had meetings with high-level executives in the sports industry and big-name sponsors. MLSE has even had Mandarin advertisements inside the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. And well, the messiah of hockey, Connor McDavid, made a visit to Beijing this past summer to unofficially help the game of hockey grow in China. I bet the NHL loved that free service. The Canadian government is also using hockey as a form of diplomacy in China. Here's a picture of Justin Trudeau and Chinese Premier Li Keqiang surrounded by Montreal Canadiens alumni at the Bell Centre in Montreal. In 2011, there was an estimated 1.49 million Canadians of Chinese descent living in Canada, and I'm sure the new census will have found this number to grow. My hopes are that through these ties back to China, Canada's love for hockey will somehow find its way to that part of the world. So hopefully I've convinced you that ice hockey and the National Hockey League will be in China one day, and that one day is very soon. I grew up in Canada playing Canada's sport, but I've also lived and worked in China. I found a second home there for a while. So now I'm ready to share our sport with a country that has so much potential. Oh, and the National Hockey League? If you need any help growing hockey in China, I'm your guy.